You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shemaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shemaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another show lined up for y'all. Today, we're going to talk about writing. So if you're interested in learning about being a publisher and a writer, we have a perfect guest for you today. We're going to talk to a author and ghostwriter publisher, Carrie Pierce. She is the publishing and media house co-director over at PierceMedia.com. We're going to learn more information about her today and all about her personal journey with writing and being a publisher. So, Carrie, thank you for your time. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well, Shemaya. It's a joy to be with you today. I truly appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it.
I appreciate you being here. So kind of share with us a little bit about your experience your experience being a publisher and a writer, and what was the journey like for you?
Well, the journey is, I think, perpetually ongoing, and that is a joy and sometimes a curse. Writing is hard work, and it's, I think, probably a lot more difficult and cathartic and painful than people realize. But in answer to your question more about me, I have been a published writer and an author, as you've mentioned. I've got about 30 years now combined in the publishing and the media industry, including film, TV, and radio. I've written thousands of health and beauty articles focused more for midlife men and women, but I have 2 children's books and then also the hybrid publishing house that I am co-director of with my dear friend and business partner, Sandra Morgan. So writing has always been a powerful, pivotal influence in my life. I knew from a very early age that I wanted so much to be a writer, but I didn't know how in the world that ever happened. I didn't know how to make it happen for myself. It seemed a true impossibility, but in my very heart, it was just there. It was just an urging, and it was almost like my implanted mission that is why I was made. But I didn't have the machinery parts for a long, long time to make it happen. So I just kind of wrote for myself, poetry and journals. And when I needed to feel my feelings and I didn't have a safe place to feel them with anyone else, I wrote them.
And what is your approach when you're crafting your stories and they contain important life lessons? How do you go through that whole process?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a meaty question. A lot of prayer goes into my writing. When I know that I'm going to be taking someone on a written journey through one of my articles or my stories, I do a lot of prayer first, because I feel like we are all here to serve, and we are all here to try to help each other thrive and overcome and grow and support one another. And words can either be a wonderful, wonderful building up tool, or a very powerful weapon that does tremendous damage. And so to wield words is a tremendous responsibility. So of course, I move along the process of setting up an article or a book, through the traditional outlining process so that my thoughts are in order. But I do a lot of praying along the way. I weigh my thoughts and my words very carefully. I pick my words very carefully. From both a meaning standpoint and a weighting standpoint in my writing. And I think most writers do that. And then I release my first draft, whether it's an article or a story or a book. I let myself write that first draft without judgment. And I think that is part of the process where fledgling writers become very frustrated and they quit, because they expect it to come out of them perfectly, flow out of them with just magnificence. Writing doesn't work that way. So you let the first draft come and flow out of you onto the page, and then you go back and you begin the crafting process.
We're talking to our guest today, Carrie Pierce, and you can go visit the website, PierceMedia.com. And you said, like you said earlier in the show, you are with a hybrid publisher with Morgan PierceMedia and Publishing. Tell us a little bit about how the process works being a part of y'all's community.
You're asking the meaty questions. I'll have to condense my answers. Hybrid publishing is a very interesting field. And Sandra and I both feel quite a bit of love and personal responsibility for carefully shepherding our authors. It's an expensive process. Publishing is an expensive process. There's a lot of emotion that goes into it. There's a tremendous amount of talent and feeling and effort. And the publishing world in general usually brings along with it, for quite some time in the process, a tremendous amount of rejection. And those rejection letters can really cause a lot of damage and scar tissue. They're usually just, you didn't meet our cut, you don't meet our standards, move on, good luck. But Sandra and I shepherd our authors that come to us, and also the people that send their manuscripts to us. If we do have to reject someone's writing, we try to do it in a loving, helpful way where we give them carefully considered input that will be of service to them and benefit to them, not just a rejection letter. So hybrid publishing is basically one-stop shopping for the author. And publishing is a very complicated process. You have ISBN numbers you have to buy. You have to register your book with the Library of Congress. You have to have book covers and artwork designed. You have to have the right layout. There's like 9 different types of editing that you really fundamentally should do. And a lot of authors don't realize all the work that goes into it. And really getting your work published is just the beginning. The hard part comes after that. That's like climbing Mount Everest. And then when you get to the top, you have a bigger Mount Everest to climb, and that's your marketing of your book. And usually in the publishing process, unless you go with a standard publishing house, a brick and mortar publishing house, most publishers kind of just get your book for you and then dump you out there into the world, and there's no additional support. And so what we try to do with our authors is help them with the marketing process. They come to us, and we have a staff of cover designers and artists, and we do the editing. We have the editors and the editing processes in place. And then all the registrations and the legalities we take care of, and then we roll you out into the world and we stand and support you in that process. So we're kind of different in the sense that we view our authors as family, because it's kind of at least a year-long process. And then we want your success to continue. And in a lot of our cases, our authors go on, their stories are so compelling that we can go on and then market them as screenplays to possible TV series, networks, and films.
It sounds like y'all really have a hands-on experience with your clients. And how important is it for aspiring to be published authors to consider y'all services as a difference from other competitors?
Well, we really have put a great deal of time and effort into how we have formulated Morgan PierceMedia Publishing. And I think the reason we set it up the way that we did is because Sandra and I, together, we have 60 years of published experience. She's also a writer, and we have been through the publishing process, the ugly side of it, the underbelly. We have had the crushing rejection letters, and we have been taken advantage of by other publishers in the past with our works. That's very painful when that happens, and it happens, unfortunately, often. So we have crafted how we do things very carefully with a lot of prayer from our hearts, from our own personal painful experiences. And we want to try to shelter our authors as much as possible from those painful experiences and feelings, while at the same time serving them. And that means we sometimes have to edit, strongly or give them guidance on perhaps their work is a little more convoluted and needs to be tightened up, or we're missing the mark. They're missing the mark with how they're expressing themselves in some way. So we have to have those tough conversations, but we always do it with love. And I think if you are out there with a story to tell, especially if it's a story with a good, light-filled message, the world needs your voice and your story now more than ever before. I think the world, we all agree, probably the world is becoming very dark, and we need light. We need stories and voices out there that are inspirational and light-filled and healing and helpful to people. So if you have a story out there and you're not sure about your writing abilities, or you have been rejected a few times and you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting anywhere, it's nice, that you can consider us, because our goal is to maybe help you get some traction and point you in the right direction. Whether your manuscript is accepted by us or not, we can at least help you kind of craft it and polish it so that when you go on to another publisher, you have a better chance of being accepted. But in terms of being published and going on to success, I feel that we are certainly set up at Morgan Pierce to do that. We've spent a great deal of time and effort building this vehicle with success in mind for our authors.
Once again, talking to our guest, Carrie E. Pierce. You can go to the website, PierceMedia.com. And for our listeners, you yourself are an experienced writer and publisher. So for you personally, how do you balance your writing and at the same time live your life with family and your personal commitments?
It's difficult. I said one other time before, and I had heard this a long time ago, decades ago, and I forget who said it, but the quote was, writing is like giving birth to a bale of barbed wire. You go into a room by yourself with your own thoughts and your own feelings, and you hash out every single word. You pick every single word, you weigh the definition of every single word, the meaning of every single word, the weighting of every single word. You put it together like a beautiful tapestry. And in a lot of cases, it's kind of like opening up an artery and just letting your soul run out onto a page. And I do adhere very much as a writer to the concept of no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. So if you're writing something that is not moving you, then you kind of shouldn't bother, because your readers will not be moved by it either to the degree that they deserve to be and that you want them to be. As a writer, you're giving up a tremendous amount of time out of your life to craft your stories or your articles. And the reader is also giving time out of their life to make time to read your words. And I feel like it is imperative that you come from a point of respect, respect for yourself, respect for your loved ones, respect for your reader, respect for the ability and the talent and the opportunity, the platform. Again, prayer is important. Staying balanced is important. And I write a lot. I do ghostwriting as well as my own writing. And then I help with the editing services and the marketing services through Morgan Pierce. So there's constant writing going on. And there are some days, usually on the weekends, and I think Sandra also tries to be respectful of this, where you have to turn that off. And puttering around the house or going out on a long walk when the weather's good, or even when it's not, I try to make time for exercise, because you spend so much time as a writer in your heart and in your head that sometimes it's easy to forget you also have a body, and that there are other people that you're called with, to interact with, you're called upon to interact with, and you need to be present. So you really have to struggle sometimes to find and maintain that balance. It's very important, because you can't, not to use a cliched analogy here, but you can't pour from an empty vessel or a vessel that has a crack in it.
Yeah. And when you look at the platform that you're a part of with the Morgan Pierce Media Publishing.com, for our listeners, how, for someone who's aspiring to be an author, put it that way, how can they weigh the scales of quality when they are trying to get their story across?
Well, when you talk about the scales of quality, are you talking about comparing other publishing houses to choose from, or are you talking about the quality of their own writing?
Yeah, the quality of their own writing, so that
Quality of
way,
your own writing.
yeah, your platform can do a great job publishing their work.
That's a really good question, Shemaya. You become so enmeshed at one point in your writing that you can't see it anymore. And I've got 2 children's books out there right now. And to be honest with you, I've read them both probably 500 times, and our editors have read them, and then I've read them again. And throughout the whole entire process, you end up reading your work from start to finish hundreds of times, which means you almost hit like a snow blindness. You just get to where the words swim. You start overthinking things. You start, did I use this sentence improperly? Is this word better than that word? You get to a place where you're totally enmeshed. And so my answer to you is, as a writer, do the very best you can. Tighten it as best you can. Don't let your writing be flabby. Let your first draft flow and come out. It will not be perfect, but then care enough about your writing and hone your skills enough as a writer to be able to tighten and firm and flesh out that writing as much as possible. Make it as good as you possibly can, and then realize I've done the best job I can, and it's time to lovingly pass it off to someone for their professional expertise. And it's like turning your baby over to a stranger. It's very difficult to do because writing is an incredibly intimate process. You're pouring yourself, and in a lot of cases, your heart and soul, onto a page. And then you're turning it out into the world. And sometimes the world can be cruel and it can be painful. But you do reach a place where you have to let it go, and you have to let it go to a trusted source that will receive your writing with a kind heart, a heart that wants you to succeed, and that will then work with you to help you reach your mission, which is getting your word out to a receptive, appreciative audience and receiving success and appreciation.
We're talking to our guest, Carrie E. Pierce. You can go visit the website, PierceMedia.com. For the publishing house, as you see how it will evolve in the future, how do you stay true to your mission and also watch it blossom into even higher ground for your platform?
Well, again, a lot of prayer, there are threads to our mission statement that Sandra and I are very careful about pulling through everything that we do. I think if you drop a pivotal or key thread of your mission statement anywhere along the way, as you roll out your business or as you perform the services that you are contracted to perform, if you drop one of those threads, then you're in danger. And you're in danger of losing your way. You're in danger of losing your mission, your clarity, and you're in danger of losing the end result. And not only losing the end result for yourself and the company, but for the authors that have entrusted you. So Sandra and I meet every single day. We talk about everything. We are extremely hands-on, even though we have editors and artists on our team, and we have publishers, printers on our team and things like that. We are very hands-on for every single process. And it's important to us that we remain so. I do think that is something that separates us from a lot of other companies, even though we're growing and we have a growing roster and a growing staff. It matters to us that our fingerprints stay on every single thing that we turn out. Our reputations are on our final product, just like the names of the authors. Our house imprint goes on everything that we publish. That's our reputation on that product, and we take it very personally. So we are extremely hands-on, and we make a very carefully crafted, concerted effort to always remember what our core mission is. So I don't know if that answers your question. I hope it does.
It does. And with that, when a person is sometimes indecisive what they want in their book, how can they better align with your core mission to help them kind of finish their book?
Well, akin to what I said earlier, no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. If you're writing something that you feel is not resonating with you, or you're not convinced of what you're writing, it's going to be very hard to bond with that manuscript. And it's going to be very hard for you to propel it forward, no matter how good a publishing team that you have, because you've created something you yourself actually do not believe. And so if you're wrestling with writing and you feel like it's not resonating with you, I think the most important thing to do is to sit with yourself and to sit with that writing and try to reconnect with what moved you to want to write that piece in the first place. And it's kind of like getting lost in the wilderness on a hike. You have a compass. If you're smart and you're lost, you pull out your compass until you find true north again. And it's the same thing with the writing process. It's very common. You get lost along the way. And many authors actually say, and it's happened to me before, I'm writing this book, I have no idea how it ends. And that's part of the process. And it's also part of the magic of being a writer. You have to be okay with that to a certain point. But as you're taking steps into this writing wilderness and you're getting deeper and deeper into the writing wilderness, and you're kind of off course and you're getting lost, there comes a point where yes, you have to let the magic and the mystery unfold, but you also then have to pull out your compass and recalibrate. How far off course am I? Where is the end now to this story, and how do I get there from here? Or do I need to go back a couple miles and go down a different fork in this journey? It's a hard line to toe, because in a lot of some of our best writing in books that we revere today, the writers had absolutely no idea. The characters wrote the story for them. And I myself, in my first children's book called Abby Appletree, I didn't know what that story was about. It came to me fully formed, and I wrote it overnight one night. I stayed up all night long, and I actually watched my hand write the story. And it was news to me to see where this story was going. But I think when you know your characters enough and you trust your characters, if you are writing fiction, or you trust your mission enough, it will guide you if you stay in touch with your heart and you let it. So there's a mystery to writing that I can't really explain, because if I over-explain it, it takes it away. And I think writers will understand that.
We're talking to our guest, Carrie E. Pierce. You can go to the website, PierceMedia.com. When people are listening to this and they're ready to submit their manuscript, what's maybe a good guideline for them to follow?
Well, when they're ready to release it and they've done their due diligence, there are an awful lot of hybrid publishers out there, and I would encourage your listeners to go and check them all out. See what you're actually getting for your contract and your fee. See what they actually promise that they will do for you. Make sure that they have done it for other authors in the past and that they have good business ratings. And then look at who these people are. Read their backgrounds, read their bios, see if you have a good rapport with them. If you're ready to submit your manuscript to us, you may do so through our website. We actually have a submissions page where you can upload it directly. And then it takes us a few weeks to get around to reading it. We try to hurry. We try to get to each author so that they're not hanging out there waiting. We do let you know we've received it. And then Sandra and I personally get together and we read it and we discuss it. And so we don't just blow past people's writing. We actually take the manuscripts that are submitted to us. We take the time to read them. We make notes. We have meetings and discussions about this. So we don't just stop at your book proposal. We go actually into your writing style. It's very hands-on. And so I would just say be careful and do your due diligence before you decide who to release your baby to, because that's what your writing is. It's a part of you, and it's a part of your heart, and it's a part of your mind, and it's a part of your talent, and it's a part of your soul. And you need to be careful about who you entrust it to.
We've been talking to our guest, Carrie E. Pierce, author, ghostwriter, and publisher, and she is a part of the platform that you can visit their website, PierceMedia.com. I want to say thanks for taking time talking to us today, and what's the best way that people can contact y'all?
Well, they can reach me through Carrie, which is spelled Carrie, at morganpiercemediapublishing.com. And I'd be happy to be in touch with them, hear from them, answer their questions. And that's actually the most direct way, the best way. And I've really appreciated our time today, Shemaiah. You've asked some very thought-provoking, wonderful questions. I hope this has been a benefit to your listeners.